Let me tell y'all something. If you did not see last night's episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville, baby, you are missing out. Okay. I got to tell y'all the truth, man. This episode to me was a 10 out of 10. It is actually for me one of those episodes where I feel like I might need to watch it again and again and again. Baby, let me tell you something. Latisha should have probably never showed up to that not the gender reveal. Lord have mercy, the baby reveal, because they was wearing Latisha out. Okay, I'm sure Latisha wished that she had stayed at home. But baby, because if she had, but let me tell you something. If she had stayed at home, we wouldn't have had a scene like we had last night. Baby, this scene to me will go down in the history, okay, on Love and Marriage Huntsville as the Kiki of all Kikis right here. And Kiki won't even at the Kiki, okay? Kiki won't at the Kiki. Kiki was too busy kikiing at home with the husband to be kikiing with these ladies, or Kiki was somewhere down to the hospital room. I don't know where she was, but she won't kikiing with these Kikis right here. So all I know is this was good. I'm giving this episode 10s across the board, from facial reactions, confrontations, a walk off, more confrontations, ponderosas, tea being spilled. I mean, let me tell you something. This episode was edited for maximum capacity tea spillage, okay? And I mean, we got complicated health issues. We got all kinds of things that I'm like, this to me was an episode. The editors, bravo, bravo. And y'all ain't really do no editing. It won't no creative tricks or nothing like that. It was simply facial reactions like these to me that took things over the top, and we're gonna get into them. But it was just all of this in this scene right here. Okay, I'm gonna leave it up because it to me, honestly, the scene just takes me out, all of it, every last bit of it, and it was long too. Okay, the thing that I do like about Love and Marriage Huntsville, I like it sometimes, but for the most part, it always works. It be sometimes I feel like that scene went on for 10 minutes and I was a little over it. But then you get a day like what we got right here, okay? And that scene, I swear, it was like the first 20 minutes of the episode. But let me tell you something. I did not want this scene to end. They could have kept this scene going this whole episode could have been this one scene right here. It was so much that happened in this scene, okay? And again, poor Latisha, I know she wish she had stayed her butt at home. Anyway, you know what was funny about this episode? I was watching it. I was watching the intro, and I was like, "Oh, I forgot Martell is on this show. He does not be around on this show. I don't know if it's because he ain't really got no story now that him and Sheree is." I can't even say that with a straight face. Baby, if I never believed him and Sheree was a thing to begin with, to be honest with you. And I think I'm supposed to believe that it was a thing, but I never believed it was a thing. And so now that it's not a thing no more, it's like, well, what is his thing gonna be? Okay, he gonna be mad at Marsau. All right, okay, fine, cool. Let's roll with that one. Okay. But to be honest, he ain't really got much to do on this show. He really don't. To be very honest with you, I mean, unless they're gonna bring in the baby mama or something like that, I mean, he don't really have, in my opinion, that much in this iteration of the cast. With where we are now, he just seems very disconnected to me. And I don't want the man to be without a job, you know what I'm saying? Because I know he got the kids and things like that. So if he's going to continue in this franchise, I do feel like he needs to find a way to become more entrenched in the story. And maybe that will become more evident as time goes on. Because at this point in time, I'm way more interested in the Fletchers and Stormi and Kiki and all of that. To be honest with you, the additions are bringing it, okay? In addition to the rest of the core, I would say 6 with the exception of Martell. But that's just me. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. All right. So anyway, Back to the baby reveal, and it's been delayed, but it's kicked off with some words of prayer, and Latisha finally arrives late. Okay, but we learned that she never responded to the evite for the event. Okay, she thinks that Tiffany is messy, but she does like her. I think that's the common sentiment amongst most of us. Tiffany is messy, but I like her. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I feel like Latisha is right about that. She's messy, but I like her. It is very awkward between Stormi and Latisha. Apparently, they had talked on the phone and they were fine. So it confuses Latisha when she walks in, and Stormi is kind of like, off a little bit. Now, I don't know if Stormi was just maybe having an off day in general, because we also remember when Melody walked in, Stormi also had a little bit of like, I ain't trying to speak to you either. So maybe she was just having a bad day. I don't really know. Latisha realizes that actually the energy is off with the entire group and asks why everybody is so quiet. Girl, you probably should have just been quiet yourself. Just sat over there and rocked in your chair, okay? Because little did you know you was gonna be on the menu today. All right. Anyway, Kimmy reveals we was talking about the Expo. We was talking about the Black Expo. And so Kimmy wants to get the group together to have a ponderosa to give constructive criticism to the Scots about, what can be done to make this better. And I think that's a great idea. Okay. Latisha, though, does not want no more feedback. Okay. Don't give me no feedback. She already got it from the Fletchers. Baby, I feel like when you do an event like this and you have people that you are involving, I do feel like, especially if this was the first one and there's questions about how things were run and managed, and people are being told different information, I do think that it is critical that you get feedback. And maybe you get this feedback when you are not in the room. Okay. I mean, a survey. How about that? Okay. Or you get somebody to gather the people that were involved. I mean, granted, this is a reality TV show, so they got to be there. But in the real world, what you could do is gather these people together. If you are afraid of that critique, then you could have them write it down, and then you could take that feedback to make it better. But you cannot be afraid of feedback when you have involved people in this way, whether it be to provide services, give speeches, and then you're asking some people for money, but not other people. That sort of thing gets a little bit messy. I got to tell you the truth. I had a situation that occurred similar to that recently, and it just honestly it left me with a bad taste in my mouth for some of the individuals involved. Not necessarily, not really the individuals, but how it was managed. You understand what I'm saying? And even me talking about this, no one will have a clue what I'm talking about, because the situation was so different. But I'm just saying that I just feel like I get it. You want to be able to have a transparent business model so that the people who are investing their time, their energy, and whatnot can really see and understand what all is involved, where the money is going, especially if it's a nonprofit sort of thing, or if it's charitable. Then you want to make sure that those contributions and whatever monies you are taking, there's some transparency across the board, so that everybody really can get a gauge on, okay, this was fair, this was done well, I donated my time and my energy and my resources, and I wasn't gypped. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't asked to do more than somebody else was asked to do. All right. So Kimmy wants to know, why don't you want feedback? And Nell then reveals that they were told that they were going to be invited, but never were. Latisha felt like she didn't need to send personal invites. She put it on social media, but clearly Nell was expecting, like, maybe, hey, date time information. I'm on the fence with this one, because I mean, I do think that if Latisha wanted them to be there, then I feel like, definitely make sure you follow up with them if you said that you were, right? That's one thing. Um, and I also feel like if you post something on social media, there's a chance that I might not see it. The stuff that I see a lot is it's fashion related content. It is people who post a lot within the world of reality television, reality TV news, that type of stuff. I rarely ever see a lot of my very close friends post on Instagram. I have to literally go searching for them to find it. And so I feel like me seeing something on social media, I might miss that, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Especially when I'm expecting information from you about, okay, well, what do you need me to do? Is there special seating for me? This is gonna be filmed. Am I on the list for filming? Because there's a lot that goes into it that is also, that needs to be accounted for. Latisha announces that she's over it. They've had the conversation, and Nell takes that as shade, and and says Latisha has a totally different energy than she had at dinner. Granted, Latisha's energy is different, likely because she is having to defend herself. Really, she's having to defend Marsau, to be honest with you. She's having to defend some of her own actions as well, but she really doesn't have anybody there to really back her up. So I get the level of frustration that she was feeling to a certain degree. But I mean, when you aren't transparent, you gotta then expect for other people to start to try to put the pieces together to gain some level of clarity about something that you are being very vague about, right? So then Latisha feels like her energy is the same, and I have to say that it is not. But I do think that there is an added layer of frustration here because again, she's doing this, she's confronting these issues on her own. And Kimmy has to tell her that don't take it out on Nell. I'm the one who brought it up. And I appreciated Kimmy sort of really being like the person that was, I mean, we're not coming against you. I mean, but you taking it personally. And I feel like this is a business thing. And so it's going to continuously come up because everybody had a different experience and everybody is starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And that is the thing that you don't want. You don't ever want for everybody else to have to put the pieces of the puzzle together about a business endeavor that you have asked them to be a part of, right? And so then when they come back to you with questions, you then clam up and say, well, I don't want to talk about it. It ain't none of your business. Well, yes, it is because I donated my time, my energy, my effort, and I might have had to pay $100 for it, okay? I might have had to pay $100 to donate my time, my energy, and my effort. I got to pay to donate my time, my energy, and my effort? No. No. So anyway, Latisha doesn't feel like, well, she feels like everybody's coming at her and nobody has good intentions, okay? And she feels like she has nothing left to give. And Nell basically calls her out for having an attitude. So the tension is thick between Nell and Latisha. Nell was not letting her foot up Latisha's neck, and Latisha was definitely giving it back to Nell, okay? Tiffany then throws some shade at Latisha as well for not, RSVPing to her event. And I wrote down in my notes, I said, Latisha, poor thing, is getting it from every direction. Okay. She just wants to move on and celebrate the baby. And Tiffany is like, well, where is Kiki for this Kiki? And so Latisha is shocked that, she's not shocked that, Kiki's a no call, no show. And Mel is worried about her. And it turns out that there's probably good reason to be worried. All right. So anyway, Mel brings up that they were all talking about the Expo. And then Tiffany says there should be another one and she can keep the front row warm. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The front row can be kept warm by the seat warmers such as Tiffany and maybe Nell and Chris Fletcher if they so lucky enough to be invited. Oh, yes. But by the way, as I stated last time, I don't know why anybody would be jumping into like the ring to try to be back at the next one unless they again about to make it better because all the people got complaints and the people that's through it don't want to hear the complaints. So anyway, then the argument with Stormi and Latisha and Marsau comes back up over the $100 bill. Okay, Nell is like, "What happened? Give me the tea. I want the tea." And I know, Latisha, I know you over there ignoring me. So Stormi, you tell me what the tea is. You got a mouth. You can talk. You can speak. Because Stormi has been relatively mute this entire time. I don't know if she said, "I'm not gonna be involved in this drama today." Okay, I don't know if that was her method or her intent, but I felt like Stormi was like, "I'm gonna sit this one out," and then Nell brings her right on in. All right. But it was I could not help but keep but Kiki a little bit, not Kiki, but Kiki. You know, Kiki is in laughing, not the Kiki as in the one that's we got a whole different a whole another set of issues to deal with that Kiki. But anyway, I was Kiki and not Kiki, but I was definitely laughing. My side had heard it, you know, every time Miss Nell said, I know she ignoring me, so you go ahead and talk, okay? So anyway, Latisha then feels like they all mad that she threw it and they didn't. I don't think that's the reason, girl. And she says in her mind that they hating, and she gets up to walk away. Nell says at the dinner with Latisha and Marsau that they said that nobody had to pay. And Stormi then goes to get Latisha and bring her back because she feels like Latisha needs to stop running away from the criticism. And I do agree with that. I mean, I feel like, you know what? Sit through it. Sit through it so we can get through it. If you sit through it so we can get through it, we can move on to the next topic, okay? So Nell is saying, so you basically lied, okay? Because Latisha's like sarcastic, like, yeah, that's what we said. That's what we said. But I'm like, you and Marsau are providing very little clarity on what is true, real, and just in this situation. You cannot be upset when these people are asking you about things that seem contradictory that you guys have said. Now, if you want to direct everyone to Marsau, that is what you should do. But also, you seem to have been the person that was really rallying everyone. So you are in a little bit like you're responsible for explaining to these people, you know, what is going on with this financial situation, and make it make sense to them, because not no one seems to understand, and everyone seems to have been told something different. All right. So at that point, um, Mel reveals that Kimmy said that Maurice paid. So then Stormi tells her, listen, girl, okay, I felt like Stormi said, I'm gonna have to work today. Fine, fine, fine. And so she says, look, it looks like y'all being real secretive about what's going on at the event. Okay. Latisha says, well, it ain't none of y'all business what happened with the money. The heck you say? If I had to give you $100 and she didn't have to give you $100, and I had to give $100 and that person didn't have to give $100, oh, I'm gonna have some questions about what is going on with this money. Now, granted, it's $100. I mean, you know, I'm sure everybody at the table got it, okay? But it is just the whole idea that you can't come to me this on the day of demanding things. You know what I'm saying? When I'm trying to set up and I'm trying to get things going, I'm trying to get in the headspace to run the event, and you coming to me asking me about $100 bill. You better get on up out of here with that mess. So anyway, and anyway, Courtney then left the $100 bill down to the thing, so the money is the payment that was owed was paid. Looked like to me. So anyway, Kimmy thinks people who have donated their time and have reasonable questions should be able to ask those questions and get the answers that they need. And she suggests a town hall with constructive criticism. But Latisha is feeling attacked. So Stormi clarifies, girl, the issue ain't with you for real, for me. It is with Marsau. And so, you know, they go over Latisha, you know, checking Marsau, and then for some reason checking Stormi for going back at Marsau. And she felt like, you know, ain't no way. Stormi basically said, listen, ain't no other way to talk to a man, okay, who is acting like a woman. Oh, yes, she did. And the faces, it was the reaction shots for me, baby. The reaction shots for me. Okay, because Tiffany, you just gonna let her say that? Okay. Mel, you just gonna you gonna let her say that? And Nell was in her confession like, I can't believe that she just let this woman say that about her husband several times. Okay, at least twice. Okay, at least twice. So, Stormi feels like, though, that Latisha gets a lot of the heat from everybody else because of Marsau, okay? And, you know, Mel then reveals, well, she has an issue too, because she too heard from Nell everything that Marsau said about her business acumen and professionalism and selling of the t-shirts and things like that. And Latisha lets it be known, Marsau can speak for himself. Girl, yes, okay. You need to uh, uh, extricate whatever. If am I saying that word right? Y'all know I'm a wordsmith, but today I ain't got the words because I've been talking all day. But what I got to say is this: you need to remove yourself, okay, from these situations that Marsau continues to put you in, because now you got to answer for everything that he be doing, okay, and he be doing some troll type stuff, all right. And what I mean by trolling, I mean you'll never know if he's saying serious or playing, but the impact is I'm affected, okay. Um, so Stormi feels like Marsau wants to be a lady. Okay. He's acting like a BI and he can throw on a wig and join them. Now, I ain't heard this level of carrying on about a man in the women business since Nene Leakes told Peter Thomas to stay up out of women business. Okay. And I was like, now see, but the difficulty is on this show ain't just centered around the women. All right. It is for me, the men that also make this show what it is today. And that's why I keep trying to tell these housewife franchise folks that when you look back at some of the best seasons of Atlanta, you will see that it was also the men that was heavily involved in the dynamic that made the situations more interesting. People can get into when relations with men and women are involved. It just is what it is. It's fascinating. Okay. So I got to actually speak up for the fact that, I mean, him being, I don't know, it ain't to me that he be in women business. Okay. And trust me, when I'm speaking, I'm purposely speaking. Okay. Understand what I'm saying. When I say he be in women business, okay. I feel like he talked reckless to women's. That's what I feel like, personally speaking. You like, I feel like he be talking reckless and he just say whatever he want to say. And so we're gonna get into that a little bit more. All right. So Kimmy and Maurice meet up with their brother, with Maurice and Marsau's brother Micah, who was project managing on the build out. And I tell you one thing, that if you can't say nothing else about these folks down to the Huntsville, but everybody is building something. It is like Legoland down to the Huntsville, baby. Because everybody got a building, they renovating, they excavating, they digging tunnels, they finding artifacts within the earth. But it's always a building being built, okay? There's always something going on. There's always some plywood and some plaster somewhere in the back of a scene, okay? I mean, and it is amazing to see, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, the timeline is off and they were that the work gonna be done on time. Now, Kimmy downloads Maurice on all the tea about the Expo, the event, that we've been talking about since last year. And anyway, baby, can y'all have another event? Because this event has carried y'all through this year, okay? This event has been the cluster F of all cluster Fs, and I am all the way here for it. Carlos and the people down to the kingdom, okay, and the own people, all right? I'm gonna need for y'all to make sure next season we got another event to talk about. I don't care what it is. You got to do something a little different. But you got to make it funky, and you got to have the lack of transparency. It's got to be skewed expectations. It's got to be riddled with controversy and strife, and we will have another great season. Okay, that involves everybody. That's the other thing. Everybody's involved in some kind of way, even if you weren't even invited. So anyway, as I was stating, going backwards. So Kimmy lets Maurice know this money thing is growing legs, and she didn't know they had to pay, but we learned that Marsau casually mentioned it to Maurice, I guess in casual conversation, and I guess Maurice just gave him the money or whatever, and never told Kimmy. Because I'm sure he was thinking, it's $100. I'm sure at that time he wasn't really thinking it was that big of a deal. But given what everybody else was told or not told, it really kind of is growing, right? Really, because of the way it makes them look. So apparently, she downloads him that Marsau told Nell and Chris that no one had to pay, and it was corroborated because Latisha was right there when Nell said it in front of the group. Kimmy says that Marsau has popped off on most of the ladies, and he doesn't have a line of demarcation when it comes to the women. This is a through line throughout this episode. Okay. He also said he doesn't respect the fact that Mel is selling T-shirts, to which Maurice begins to burst into laughter. And Kimmy's like, "Do not laugh because this is the type of thing that eggs Marsau on, and then it causes tension in the group because now Maurice laughing at the e-commerce aspect of Mel's business. I feel like it is going to be not um received well, okay? And the fact of the matter is, this is how I feel. Um, we know that Mel was obviously the brains behind a lot of the operations with Holt and Holt, okay? Um, that's not to take away whatever Martell did, but logically speaking, from what we can see, Melody did a lot of the moving and the shaking business wise, right? Then we can clearly see the difference. The thing about it is with Mel is also everything she's doing is completely transparent, at least from what we can see. She has the property preservation and she teaches other people how to get into it. We see that, okay? We've seen the only thing that I feel like he is going to, when he's going to mention it later, but I think the only thing that is going to be a thing where he can point out that she has done one thing and then seemingly done another is the skincare business. My rationale behind that, my assumption is that that business initially, the first skincare line was likely tied into something with her and Martell. And in order to split that, it became like a thing where I'm going to leave that behind and I'm going to revamp what I want to do under my umbrella as Seventh Avenue Premier Skincare. That is my assumption. Okay. So that she doesn't owe Martell anything. He can't get any of those profits. That all belongs to her. Okay. So we've seen her build several businesses. And whether or not you want to respect those businesses or not, I just feel like the fact of the matter is you still wanted her to speak at your thing. So you respected it enough until she wasn't able to do so. Okay. Which we talked about last week. Um, Mel stops by to go see Nell for this is another. I mean, baby, these conversations were so good last night. They recap the baby reveal. They talk about how Tisha rubbed Nell the wrong way and how she didn't know, she had a daycare or literally around the corner from, I guess maybe either where they live or where they work, from where Latisha and Marsau live or work. I don't know. Apparently, Marsau also called Chris Fletcher the day before the Expo and still did not invite him. So my question was he calling to ask for some type of advice and then not even going to invite him to the Expo? I don't know. Nell wonders why, if Tish owns 80%, 85% of the company, for which we see a flashback of Nell saying, how you going to let your husband kick you out of your office if you own 85% of the business? That's a very good question. Because if I own 85% of the business, you're not going to kick me out of my office, especially not without telling me and without without getting my approval. Okay. It's just not going to happen, babes. It's not going to happen. And why, if Latisha owns 85% of the company, why she don't know that the Fletchers have been patronizing, Black, apparently going there, whether it was taking people there, having business meetings, I don't know, but they were definitely allegedly purchasing cases of chocolate in a bottle or whatnot. Nell also reveals that her and Chris, they own their businesses 50-50. So Mel then talks about when she and Martell were in business. This is where I got the idea that she may have been in 50-50 with him for her first skincare line. She reveals that when they were in business, when they were married, they were doing government contracting. And, I'm assuming they were maybe 50-50 too. but I'm not necessarily sure. But what she says, what the government found out that people were doing was the husband was putting the business mostly in the wife's name so that they could classify as a woman-owned business so that they can get the benefits and win more contracting opportunities that were explicitly for women-owned businesses, right? So then the question is whether or not that is what not Maurice, but Marsau and Latisha are doing based on the information that they're talking about in this scene, right? So they're starting to wonder if this is all smoke and mirrors. So Mel feels like they want to keep it a big secret of how much money is being made or how much money is not being made. So Nell and her kind of wonder about why they won't be transparent about, the finances with the Expo. And so apparently there's also a social media campaign to build a house or something like that. And Mel was going to go check that campaign, but she can't because she's blocked. So I was like, well, girl, how you find out about it then? But anyway, I guess somebody probably told him. So at that point, Nell is like, well, girl, how y'all gonna build a friendship? Y'all blocked each other. And Mel then wonders if Nell actually wants to be friends with Latisha. Nell isn't sure. She's just going to keep things cordial. Mel reveals that her actual issue is not with Latisha, it is with Marsau. And she feels like, well, I'll get to that in a second. Nell then begins to wonder if Marsau has a thing with women. If you notice, this is not the first time that this has come up. There's something that Stormi has recognized that Marsau has with women because she thinks that he's in the women's business. Nell realizes, well, Kimmy has also realized that Marsau does not have a line of demarcation when it comes to how he speaks to the women. Nell now also realizes that there is a thing that Marsau has with women because he doesn't think she really did anything, like just was his Chris Fletcher's pretty wife. And she also thinks that Marsau is trying to disrupt Mel and Tisha from being cool. So then we get and I think that maybe Mel said that. We get flashbacks from season 1 as evidence of Marsau sort of getting in the mix of Mel taking Latisha out and introducing her to people in the community to sort of, allow her to network and meet people and grow her own business enterprises and that sort of thing. And we see the flashbacks where Marsau was very reticent to allow her to have those experiences, so much so that it appeared to be that he was holding her back because it seemed like he didn't want her to grow in that regard. But it also feels like he's sort of learned to allow her to begin to do that more. I don't really know. But maybe is there some, do you guys think that there's some level of resentment there? And maybe I don't know what it is, honestly. Maybe he just is very old school with how he looks with his views on women. Like there's some sort of antiquated view on women that he maybe have learned growing up. I really don't know. Anyway, the question for Mel is whether or not, Marsau thinks that by hanging out with, women like Mel, who have also found the strength to leave situations that were not good for them, whether or not Latisha will then begin to realize that he is allegedly manipulative and will want to leave him as well. All right, Kiki. So Kiki missed the event because she got sick again. All right. But she doesn't want people to think she's trying to hide her face because of Crime Stoppers and whatever else she's going through. All right. She doesn't want people to think that she's relapsing. And her husband says, well, he could tell if she was relapsing. So she is going to see a cardiologist and a gastrologist. And her husband wants to get her off the methadone. Now, I did ask somebody, okay, who has experience in the medical field. And there was a little bit of concern that the methadone could potentially have different issues that may be related to cardiological issues and gastrointestinal issues. But typically, from my research, it was stated that there are a lot of instances where people are on the methadone for a long time, or they end up relapsing if they get off of it, and that methadone is usually used to treat different types of addictions. Um, and the H word being one of those addictions. If you're wondering what the H word is, I'm just not going to say it on YouTube because it is what it is. So anyway, so she feels like her husband will blame everything on the methadone. All right. He tells her that she needs to change her diet and the way she's kind of moving. And she feels like he's not supportive of her in the way that she wants him to. But he's like, listen, I got the Crime Stoppers to deal with. I got the relapsing or whatever, the methadone. I got all these things I got to deal with. So I'm just trying to look out for you. Okay. And it's a lot. It's a lot. Side note, shout out to Kiki who came on the channel. She talked a great deal about her story. If you have not checked out that interview, it is really, really, really good. She was really, really transparent as much as she could be, I think, under the circumstances. And it's a good watch. So definitely go back and check that out. He does apologize if he's not as supportive in the way that she needs. So I thought it was a nice scene. So Melody goes to meet with Marsau, and she's determined to keep the energy positive. Okay, so they decide to meet at a cafe. Well, I wrote down in my notes, whenever people are meeting at a cafe outside, it never goes well. Y'all remember when Candy and Portia met up at that cafe outside, and it just turned into nothing good. So I just be feeling like whenever I see this, whenever I see the cafe scene coming, I know it's not going to be good. Anyway, he knows what he's walking into because he knows that Nell probably told him, Mel, some things that he said during their Ponderosa. So she reveals she made a conscious decision to come to the table in peace. And so she finally dives into it about what Nell said, that he said about her businesses and her business practices. Maurice says he didn't call her by name and it was embellished. You didn't call her by name, but it was definitely implied who you was talking about. So at this point, Marsau, you might as well just go ahead and say, yeah, I said it. I said it. And it ain't changing. I would have respected that more. But he does reiterate that he's not going to pay anybody to talk about their t-shirt business. So he did stand on that. Marsau says his opinion affects her. He just doesn't have a high opinion of the product's business, which I thought was odd. Is it the product? Because a lot of what you're selling are products and services. So is it that you have more of a higher opinion of a service business? I'm a little. This is all weird to me because when we talk about the products business, I'm assuming we're going to talk. We're going to leave it at e-commerce for right now because I think that would be the simplest way to put it. And I think by even suggesting that that is all she does, I think that is pretty. Well, first of all, there are a lot of people who make a lot of money from e-commerce. Okay, let me just state that there are millionaires. Excuse me, who make their money from e-commerce. So your lack of respect for it only seemed to pop up when she wasn't able to do it because you wanted her to do it before. So that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm still trying to get over that. But what I really don't understand is when he says, because Mel says, well, you've been trying to get into that business. He says he doesn't have a high opinion of the business that he's trying to get into. She's like, so why are you trying to get into it? And he's like, the money. See, now this goes back to why everybody is wondering about the financial situation for the Expo and the lack of transparency. By you saying that, well, I'm just in that for the money, I don't really have no respect for it. Like, I realize that a lot of people go to work and they don't really like their job, but they do it because they want the money. They got to feed their food, they got to feed their family and stuff like that. But when you already got several businesses and you're trying to add another, why even add it if you don't respect it? Because it's like getting yourself into something that you're not really even passionate about. Just it makes it seem like you're just interested in money grabs, right? And so when people start to question you about, the goings on behind the scenes and the lack of transparency with the Expo, and now we know that you just be interested in money grabs. It's like, bro, like you are digging yourself into a hole. Do you realize what you're saying? And usually I feel like Marsau be smarter than that. And I'm just like, bro, I guess, or maybe he just don't care at this point. I don't know. I really don't know. She says she feels like he's trying to limit her just to e-commerce when she does other things that we talked about earlier in this video. And he claims that he didn't intentionally try to downplay what she does. And again, it doesn't make none of this actually makes any sense to me because you wanted her to speak at the event. I mean, you did. So otherwise, you would have excluded her, right? So she lets him know that he is afraid that Latisha is going to she lets him know that she feels like he is trying to basically do what I think she feels like he's done in the past, which is incite controversy that will result in Mel and Latisha further falling out. But now she is like, no, I see what you're doing. You are basically afraid that ultimately Latisha is going to leave him. Oh, she's afraid of Latisha and Melody. He's afraid of Latisha and Melody being friends because he is afraid that it will result in Latisha realizing her full potential and then leaving him, who she calls manipulative and maybe an a-hole. Okay. So I started this video off by saying, Latisha was getting it from every side, but actually, Marsau got it from every side. Okay. Whether he was in the scene or not. So we will get the conclusion to that in next week's episode. Let me know what you thought about this episode. I mean, whose side are you on? Do you feel like I feel like Chris and Nell Fletcher are like bringing it, especially Nell? I'm like, where have y'all been hiding her? Because she is coming in like a wrecking ball, and I am all the way here for it. All right, so that's all we have for you guys in this video. I will catch you guys in the next one.